Black Friday stories, what they witnessed. I heard there were whistles. I heard some people would start yelling if they found a good deal, and then everyone would flood that way.
People have strategy. Oh,
yeah.
If you watch extreme couponing, it's like that times 1,000.
Yeah.
People have mapped out strategies of stores.
And sometimes you don't always get what you want, apparently.
Yeah, and you do, and you return
Sometimes you pepper spray people because they get in the way.
That
Did you hear
was
that
crazy.
story? Isn't that
was
ridiculous?
It's just a sweater.
Right.
It's $5 off
Let
socks.
it go.
Yeah. Anyway.
Come on, Kelsey.
For the most part,
Good morning,
that was
you
fun.
guys.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, I think it was a good time. And one of the biggest differences on our roadways this week from last week is we're going to start to enjoy some changes on 94. We were down to just one lane of traffic between Hiawatha and Riverside. And what that had the potential to do is slow things down a bit, but we're already hearing that's going to get cleared before we really get busy out there. So MnDOT trying to stick to its promise that we're going to get most of that back to normal so we don't have to worry about those lane restrictions. And what has been in place is we've had 4 lanes of traffic available in general, but day by day, 1 lane's closed, 2 lanes are closed. This morning, 3, but we're getting it back open. So far, we're not seeing any delays in there, but so far, just the glow of some yellow. No red brake lights quite yet. Going to our map, something to keep in mind that this morning, sometime around the 6 o'clock hour, what we've been told is that the 494 westbound ramp to US 169 northbound will be closing. Now, this has been a busy construction site for the last several months, so many of you are used to having to adjust from day to day, but keep in mind that could be a big change for some of you. Let's talk now about our weather, which still feels pretty mild out there. Everyone, well, with no precipitation out there, making the roadways challenging. What we're dealing with is just the usual challenge of a lot of people trying to get to a lot of places. We're looking at 35W headed southbound, where we see the masses filtering their way southbound from the northern suburbs. This is where we have the most activity at this hour, but still, we're not seeing any stop and go conditions underway quite yet. And this is that junction of 35W and Highway 10. So seeing things start to slow down at this sort of bottleneck effect, pretty usual, but we're checking it out anyway. Let you know what you can expect as you head out the door. 494, another busy area for people in the Twin Cities. Looking like that corridor is still fairly quiet this hour. This is at the junction of Cedar Avenue. So in both directions, that traffic building map, though, one thing that will be looking a little bit different now in the coming weeks, so we've been looking forward to it, and finally it's here. That I-94 resurfacing project has pretty much wrapped up for the season. Over the big holiday travel weekend, we had all 4 lanes of traffic in both directions in play. That helped things along. But we did see some overnight restrictions, so MnDOT's going to continue working on some of the aspects of that project because it's not finished, won't be till mid-2012, but at least for the morning rush hour, we shouldn't see the impact be too great. 94 eastbound, seeing plenty of green here, really the whole northwest quadrant. We're seeing the activity start to pick up, but still with enough green out there, you know the speeds are at what is posted. Green meaning 55 miles per hour or better. Glancing around where you're coming from, if you're in the southeast, you're going to be dealing with some traffic getting heavier, especially on 35E headed northbound between Mendota Heights and St. Paul, but nothing you need to worry about. I wouldn't say you have to allow any extra time with the weather cooperating, and most of that construction now out of the way. Jason, Don, it looks like the morning commute couldn't be much better, I guess, for a Tuesday.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Our roadways in the Twin Cities, and if you're heading in this direction, you're looking at a pretty smooth ride. Our weather's cooperating, and a lot of the construction projects have wound up for the season, and therefore we're just dealing with a typical Tuesday morning without a lot of challenges. No crashes to report at this hour. This is a look at 35W. The heavier traffic headed northbound here in Burnsville. This is at Highway 13. We're seeing that activity continue to increase, but at 611, still fairly quiet out there. Let's go to our map, shall we? Check out how some of the roadways are looking in your area. The green indicating we're still moving at the posted speeds, and that is a welcomed color up here on 94 from Rogers into Maple Grove. We'd start to see the backups a little bit about 6:30, and then moving on in, of course, the 7 o'clock hour, but so far, so good. 94, the traffic headed toward downtown Minneapolis, building, but still no major trouble. One place where we are seeing the slowdowns already underway is 35W headed southbound from Blaine down into New Brighton, especially at that junction of Highway 10. Again, though, that's a pretty typical thing you'd see in the morning. 94 from Wisconsin into Minnesota headed westbound. We're not even seeing the slowdowns quite yet heading into St. Paul. In the Southwest Metro, same deal. Check it out. 494 corridor still fairly quiet. The crosstown getting busier as time passes. Here's one change, though, that will be important for you to note. The 494 westbound ramp to 169 northbound, that's now closed. It's not going to reopen until Friday morning. So, Tom, we still do see some active construction out there, but for the most part, that piece of our traffic is winding down.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you.
One, thanks for waking up with the Fox 9 Morning News. Glad to have you along. It's a pretty easygoing day out on our roadways, so if you're traveling in the Twin Cities, you can look forward to a smooth ride. We have no precipitation to deal with on this November 29th. That's a nice change from previous years. It's also pretty easy going as far as the world of traffic goes because the construction season's pretty much wound up and drivers are just kind of cruising along with these. This is a look at one of our slowest spots out on our roadways right now in the Twin Cities area, and that's at 35W and Highway 10 around the Mounds View area, and the heavier traffic headed in the southbound direction. As you can see, a little bit less than the posted speed here, but we're not seeing those bumper-to-bumper conditions quite yet. We are seeing a steady build of traffic on 35E. This is also in the southbound direction here, heading toward downtown St. Paul. Maryland Avenue, we see the slow pace beginning to be welcomed onto that roadway, but we're not going to probably see too much trouble until the 7 o'clock hour kicks in. 94, the traffic here looking all right. This is up at Hemlock Lane in the Maple Grove, Brooklyn Park area. That eastbound traffic heavier here, but isn't right along at the posted speed. If you see those yellows and oranges pop up, that's when you know the speeds are reducing a bit, which will happen during that morning commute. Something to note if you're traveling in the southwest region at that junction of 494 and 169, continual construction always throwing new tricks at you, and today the one that you need to pay attention to is 494 westbound ramp to 169 northbound. That ramp is closed, so follow those detoured signs. We're taking a quick break. Morning, everyone. We're watching I-94 where we see that eastbound or southbound traffic, however you want to look at it, heading toward downtown Minneapolis, continuing to build, and now we have a stalled vehicle near 49th Avenue. That could slow things down just a bit, but it looks like drivers right now aren't having too much trouble. No stop and go conditions underway yet, but that vehicle awfully close to the line there, so just be aware that that will be something you'll be heading toward. Get a little bit farther south or east, again, however you want to picture that roadway, because it actually does curve a little south and eastward. We're seeing a nice traffic flow around Highway 280. This is sort of a new thing. Why? Because that construction project between 35W and 280 that has been causing those lane restrictions, for the most part, that's been wrapped up for the season. So we're seeing some nice traffic flow through this area. You're probably going to be enjoying some faster speeds as you head in between the two downtowns on 94. 169, the Southwest Metro, the northbound traffic getting heavier here at Anderson Lakes Parkway. As you approach that junction of 494, that's where we have construction underway, and it's the 494 westbound ramp to 169 northbound. You're probably used to the changing ways of this area. Just use a little caution and expect some possible delays. Right now, the 494 does look all right, but I'll keep you posted. Alex, over to you.
Thank you, Kelsey.
It's right here, 94, showing you a lovely downtown Minneapolis as you head in that direction. No real trouble quite yet, or at least not this far north of 49th Avenue, but as you get a little closer to the downtown area, that's where we're seeing that congestion begin. And across the metro, with just a couple accidents, we do have some trouble spots I definitely want to point out this morning. One of those is in Little Canada. If you're heading northbound on 35E, there's a crash just after Highway 36. Pulled over maybe far enough onto the shoulder where it's not really affecting traffic too bad. Michael, you get into Rogers, continues to be heavy, not quite as bad as up here, and then you get to Maple Grove, and we see that congestion once again as people break off to go on 494, 94. 169 southbound traffic heavy at this hour. 100 continuing to build. We're not seeing any major delays there. 35W southbound, we saw this one of our earliest spots where it got congested, and it continues to be that way. 15 to 34 miles per hour from Blaine all the way south of 694. 94 westbound traffic into St. Paul, now backed up to McKnight Road, so prepare for some slowdowns there. The Southwest Metro taking a glance. There is some construction changing up at 169, 494. I'll have an update on that coming up in about 10 minutes. But for now, Tom, Alex, back to you guys.
All right. Thanks so much, Kels.
Everyone, happy Tuesday. So glad you're waking up with us here on the Fox Side Morning News. Always glad to have some friendly faces along for the ride. Speaking of the ride, not too bad for most of you this morning. We don't have any winter precipitation getting in our way, and it looks like some of that construction finally winding down, but not all of it. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, two crashes that are creating some trouble out there. Cedar Avenue, as you head northbound. This is down in Eagan near Cliff Road. As a result of this crash, we are seeing traffic get a little bit thicker in this area than we normally would. Of course, this is already an area where we see plenty of congestion during the morning rush hour between 35E northbound to Highway 13. Just a busy spot, so be prepared. It could take you even a little bit longer today than normal. I know that's not what you want to hear, but I'm just here to make sure you're educated before you head out the door. This is a look at 35E northbound traffic slow going. We have a crash near Highway 36. Again, we'd typically be seeing the heavier congestion in the southbound direction here in Little Canada, but right now we're seeing that in both directions as a result. Today, 494 westbound ramp to 169 northbound closed. It's going to remain closed until Friday around 6 a.m., so hopefully it won't greatly impact the Friday morning commute, but it will be changing things up until then. Those of you that travel this route have probably gotten used to sort of going with the flow as you approach this area. It changes a little bit every day, but prepare for some detours. Follow those signs and use some caution in case we have workers out there. 494 in the crosstown, heavy traffic at this hour around the rest of the metro. We're just really seeing that. It is a typical Tuesday morning at 7:25, at least without the weather issues, but still the traffic. We're going to go now to M.A. Roscoe, who is out in the field. Hey, M.A. Down in Egan in the northbound direction, the crash we had at Cliff Road has now been cleared. However, we still have some nice congestion going on between 35E and Highway 13. That's where the busiest stuff is, so be prepared. Kind of the typical morning commute. Those of you who left a little earlier ran into some extra stuff, but at least things are easing up a bit. 694 up in the north side of town here at Main Street, headed westbound, some really heavy traffic, and you can see that sunrise catching the glare of our into Maple Grove. It's been pretty easy going actually right in this region. That's nice because normally we'd be seeing it slow down and then get even more congested as the drivers try and break off on 494 and 94. But a little farther west, Rogers, we do some heavy traffic in St. Michael as well. 94 heading into downtown Minneapolis, we do some heavy traffic there. 394, that flow actually doing all right at this hour with no winter precipitation impacting our drivers and a lot of the construction winding down. Not as many trouble spots really to report on. That's good for you about to head out the door. 35W headed southbound at 95th Avenue is where we're seeing the traffic backed up to, heading all the way into Arden Hills. You're going to be moving at about 15 to 34 miles per hour. That construction area in 94 between 35W and 280, we're still going to be seeing some lane restrictions there, but those are going to be overnight. MnDOT's trying hard to keep it out of the way of our morning commute, so hopefully those of you traveling that route should have an easier going day. That's it for me for now, so let's now toss it back over to Tom and Alex.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Thanks.
A lot of sunshine to guide you on your way to work this morning, and it looks like only some of you will really be sitting in some bad traffic. It's been a pretty mild traffic day, to be honest, with no winter precipitation to deal with and a lot of that construction winding down. It's a little better than average, I'd say. Let's check out, though, one of those slow spots. This is 55 in the westbound direction. As you approach that Mendota Bridge, prepare for some slowdowns. We had a crash here. It looks like it's been cleared, but the slowdowns are continuing on, so prepare for that. Also, 35E northbound up in Little Canada, a crash at Highway 36 continues to cause some slow-moving conditions, even in the northbound direction. And typically, we'd see the heavier stuff at this hour in the southbound direction, so a little bit slow both ways. Let's check out now 35W northbound. This is down in Burnsville. We have a crash at Black Dog Road. Already northbound traffic on 35W at this hour is very heavy. Crash on 36 westbound near Cleveland Avenue. It's reported as a possible rollover with injury, so that may take a little while to be dealt with. 694 also, we had a report of some debris on the roadway near Highway 61, so something to note. I looked in the traffic cameras. I didn't see those with my eyes, but never a bad idea to just be aware of that if you're traveling in this area of the northeastern suburbs. We're going to take a quick break, but there's always more.
I feel you, Jen.
I know, I had a little bit too much apple pie, I think.
Oh, man, I just
on
love that.
Thanksgiving. Did you overindulge?
Leftovers, yes. Is it okay to still have leftovers? How many days?
Of course.
You're getting right down to it, though. I'd say today would be.
More excuse to eat more when I get home. Finish it off.
Just really nuke it. There you go.
It goes in too fast to think about that. Let's talk about our weather, shall we? Looking outside, we are seeing things starting. A few emergency crews on the scene, including what looked like an ambulance early on, so be prepared for those delays. In Burnsville, we do have a crash on 35W northbound at Black Dog Road, which is making an already pretty slow northbound crawl even worse. But what I'm noticing is that the congestion is really concentrated between Black Dog Road and Cliff Road, so it's not a full stretch of 35W that's really moving slowly, so hopefully it should only add a couple extra minutes to your morning commute. And we're back. 212 traffic definitely heavy at this hour in the eastbound direction. We're seeing some of those brake lights going off at Eden Prairie Road, so really as far west as Chanhassen, we're seeing the drivers having to put the brakes on just a bit. Typical that we'd see the congestion in the southern suburbs, especially in the southwest, a little bit later in the morning. But one thing to note in this area, 169 northbound a little slow, has to do with that new ramp closure today. That's 494 westbound to 169 northbound. So that's always changing a little bit. We're going to adjust once again, and hopefully it'll get easier tomorrow morning. We're going to talk now about our weather. I'm seeing lots of nice sunshine. And to all of you, good to see you. Thanks for waking up with us. We're looking at our roadways, which are getting a little bit easier going as we cruise right along in the 8 o'clock hour at 8:29. In fact, we're already seeing 494 getting a little bit more empty. Not really empty, but quieter. This is the westbound direction. We're seeing the heavier stuff here at 35W, but eastbound cruising right along. We're seeing the cruise factor in a lap. We're seeing the greens coming back in several areas, including 94 eastbound, which actually wasn't terrible this morning in that Maple Grove area. 169 southbound, though, still slow going. I saw some heavy traffic around the Plymouth Avenue area, and that continues on a little south of 394. 94, though, right now probably the worst with that crash here reported at LaSalle. So that's probably where you want to have the most focus if you're worried about where you may see those delays. 35W, 35E winding down. Still some heavy traffic, though, on 694 at Van Ness Heights up here in the northern suburbs. But for the most part, a lot of our traffic has pushed southward and become more centralized in the downtown St. Paul and downtown Minneapolis areas. 94 westbound pretty free and clear as you enter that area of St. Paul. We had one time had traffic backed up all the way to McKnight Road, even into the Maplewood area, but that quickly calmed down, and we've been seeing it calm ever since. 35E northbound through West St. Paul, still some heavy traffic there, but nothing you need to get too worked up about. It's been a pretty easygoing morning for November 29th, considering we have no winter precipitation getting in our way. One thing changing up in the Southwest Metro that's been creating some extra backups on 169 northbound here and moving into Eden Prairie is that the 494 westbound ramp to 169 northbound is closed. That's going to remain closed until Friday at 6 a.m. And those of you cruising around downtown tonight, remember that Holidazzle parade will continue to present itself. You might enjoy it if you're watching, but if you're driving that area, prepare for some delays around Nicollet Mall. We're going to go now to Tom.